stuff is real. And then they go and join one of the teams. What they have done well is they've entered all the global competitions for building drones, building robots that shoot in basketball, all that. They have all these global competitions where they specify the challenge. In fact, there is a challenge I only learned there, how to build a boat out of concrete. That too. How to build a boat out of concrete. That was a challenge too. Because there was a team building it, I asked, why did you build a boat out of concrete? Oh, that's a specification for the competition. And they had robots shooting, I saw this, all the workshops. Then electric tractors, of course, electric vehicles of all kinds, drones and automation systems. You name it, they were building it there in their workshops and all that. All the students were engaged in this, pretty much. So very first year you become an apprentice, then second year you progress. By the time the fourth years would have graduated, then the third years would take their place in leadership. So the project lead will be like a fourth year student, and then you have a workforce. Basically, it's like a small project in a company like Zoho, except that the fourth year keep vacating, so you have new students come in. And these students win competitions now. They're probably the best teams in India now. And they are able to compete with MIT and Stanford in some competitions, which is, for a college that is so rural, and most of the kids are rural. You go and ask the kids, some of them come from Tamil medium, some of them they'll say I'm a first generation graduate, son of a farmer, daughter of a flower vendor, all that. And those are the students going and winning these competitions. This, of course, it didn't totally surprise me, because we are doing those kinds of things in Zoho. Our own talent pool comes from the same backgrounds. But to see a college do it was a revelation, that they're doing it. Now the question was answered why we were hiring so many. What is amazing is, this innovation was not done by an engineer. The founder, S.V. Balsubramanian, he runs a sugar factory, and his cousin was a state education secretary under lots of chief ministers. He was only in education. Then he retired, and he went and volunteered in the college. He's just a board of trustees. He's not actually he's retired bureaucrat, right? He decided to reinvent engineering education. But I joked with him that first time I'm seeing a former IAS officer, he was talking to me about embedded systems, he was talking about this standard, that engineering standard. I said, are you really an IAS officer? And he was like 65. And he said he learned all of that after 10. So that he can, and he said the faculty is the same, the principal is the same, everybody is the same, but they've completely reinvented the college. So Professor Kavapati visited, he told me recently, I've taken a lot of people there. I myself have recommended to a lot of people. I think I would recommend this because if that college can do it, any of our companies, anybody can do it. The budgets involved is not, I'll tell you, in all of these projects, the budget involved might be 50 lakhs for this and 1 crore for that. These are not huge budgets. Mr. S.V. Balsubramanian funds it primarily, he said, out of his sugar profits. Because the college charges fees, but he still spends his own money on top to top up all the projects. Because he sees the excitement. He is not an engineer. He runs a sugar factory. So that's just how they built that whole college. Why I'm saying it is, if you see that one college and multiply 1,000 colleges we have, Tamil Nadu alone has 300, 400 colleges. What we could have done with all that talent. How many things we could have built. So this is where now I'm going to talk about our Tamil Nadu and Nagaland. See, I'm not going to talk about India. I try to reduce the problem and solve it first. Because India, is vast. Tamil Nadu is, Taiwan is 23 million people. We are at about 80 million. So roughly 4x. Taiwan's GDP is about close to $1 trillion. They are at close to $35,000-$40,000. It will be $3,000-$4,000. So 1/10. So I mean their GDP is actually 3 times ours in absolute terms and 10 times ours in per capita. And I don't think anybody could say that we have less talent, less energy, any of that. We shouldn't be underachieving by 10-fold, right? Maybe 2-fold I can agree, but 10-fold I won't agree. Then I come to Tenkasi district, I'll forget that right now. I will look at something like Estonia. Estonia's per capita GDP is about $25,000-$30,000. same population as Tenkasi, about 1.5 million people, 15 lakhs. Tenkasi in Estonia about half the same people. And that's a family, it's considered it's a digital nation, considered quite advanced in many respects now, Estonia, and they have attracted a lot of investments, a lot of companies have R&D centers there for this little nation, 1.4 billion. They're a member of EU now, but still they are outshining the EU other countries. A country like Portugal, much larger population, Estonia would lead the way in terms of a lot of things. So, what can we learn from that? What can we learn from Taiwan? TSMC. We all know about TSMC. 10 years ago, I lived in Silicon Valley for 25 years. If anybody had said someday Intel will be overtaken by this Taiwanese company TSMC, nobody would have believed. Nobody would have believed in Silicon Valley. Just 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And TSMC has comprehensively beaten it. And 10 years ago, same AMD, this AMD would beat Intel in market cap. Nobody would have believed it. Actually, AMD's market cap is higher than Intel. Shocking, because those of us who know the industry, AMD was the perpetual also rat, always near death, almost kept alive because they are the second source to Intel. That company would overtake Intel. But you peer into this, why that happened. But Intel's trouble started early. Now this is not, in other words, when the market cap, all of that unbeaten by TSMC, all that come, that didn't happen last year, that didn't happen 2 years ago. The seeds were sown 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And I'm going to shock you, and I'm going to tell you the seeds were sown by Andy Grove himself. Some of the books you might have read. And I was there in '96 when Andy Grove was CEO. I happen to know Intel engineers, close friends, and even some family who worked in Intel at that time. They would all hate Intel. The engineers actually hated working for Intel. And the reason is Intel was a highly regimented company. It's an un-Silicon Valley company. Intel uniquely would treat engineers badly. And because they had a very regimented culture, they applied what is applicable to semiconductor process to their R&D divisions. This is what you do in the fab, highly disciplined, all that. They were trying to apply it, because Andy Grove was a chemical engineer, fab expert. He was trying to apply it to semiconductor design. So as a result, perpetually what would happen is Intel would lose good talent to even an AMD, because AMD had more freedom to innovate, engineering wise. AMD was a much lower position company. It wasn't easy for them to compete, but they would get the engineer because of the disparity in the way they were treating. And that compounded over 25 years. Now you see that result. And I actually met Lisa Su, Dr. Lisa Su, who's the CEO of AMD just 4 months ago. We're doing some project, trying to do some project in their GPU. She's a hardcore engineer, I'll tell you. In fact, she only talks engineering. We talked about chip design and compiler design. I'm a compiler expert, she's a chip expert. We talked about how we can cooperate. That's why I went there. And basically, she said, look, we are not good at sales and marketing, but we are a very strong engineering company. We have very strong chips. So she was encouraging me to invest in their chip, because I went there to seek an alternative for NVIDIA. So it's I had a hidden agenda that we need a alternative to NVIDIA GPUs. And she was telling me that they had very good chips. I already knew that, but we are writing code on that chip now. So why I'm saying it is, that is the hardcore engineering company, engineers company, which is why they were able to beat Intel. TSMC is a hardcore engineers company. They were able to beat Intel. And Intel never caught up with NVIDIA. Intel lost badly to Qualcomm, again an engineers company. I worked in Qualcomm for 2 years. In other words, what I want to give you is within America, these are all American companies. Intel, AMD, they were neighbors practically in Santa Clara. Within that, the culture difference is vast when you look at it, zoom out over time. And if you know the cultures, you could have predicted it. If you know why engineers didn't like Intel, you could have predicted what was about to happen. But it took decades to play out. In a similar way, a lot of us might think Jack Welch is a genius. I'm going to tell you, Jack Welch is an idiot. He destroyed GE. No, I'll openly say it. I'll say it in Twitter. I don't care. The Jack Welch School of Management should be shut down, because that man does not deserve any of the accolades he got, because he destroyed American industry single-handedly. false ideology. As he financialized it, he ran it for finance, he destroyed the legal capability. GE is very blatantly trying to undo all of the damage. They spun out all the GE capital, all that. A lot of the GE last 5-10 years is how to undo all the damage that has been done. GE is today a shadow of its former self. And we have to understand why. And again, lack of focus on the core of the engineered products. He went to GE Capital, finance, all of that. Became easy money, addiction. And they lost the plot and Siemens took over. And the shock was, there was a period where Siemens was supplying the MRI machines for GE, the X-ray machines for GE, not MRI, X-ray machines. GE was rebadging. That is not, GE practically invented a lot of that. It should not be happening. Siemens, their primary rival, worldwide rival, they shouldn't be taking their machine and rebadging it. They were doing it. This is what false ideology does. Pride. The Japanese would never do it. Hitachi will never go to Siemens and say, give your machine, I'll rebadge it. They will have pride. But GE was willing to do it because of that ideology. And what it does to engineers is they leave. The smart guys who work in X-ray machine, they say, well, this is what management will do. Unfortunately, such engineers are what we got when we are building MRI machines in Bangalore. From US. We actually have an MRI company in Bangalore now that's actually now in concluding trials in hospitals. Very innovative guy, Arjun, name's Arjun, from Ambassadram, Tirunelveli. And he was in GE and he left because of GE culture. Right? So why I'm saying it, this is the one message I want to drive is pay attention to engineering or innovation. And I don't just mean innovation in the sense that we build new products. It's products that are new for India, new for us too. But first we have to catch up. And along the catch up, we'll discover ways to be better. TSMC didn't set a goal, we are going to beat it. They were catching up on all the technologies. The way they beat it is their engineering became better and better. And today we are in a position where, in Zoho Mail, for example, we already are a better email than Gmail. A lot of Gmail customers are migrating to us now. And corporate email. And we are now on par in many respects, most respects we are on par, in some respects better than Microsoft. How does it happen? Because we first caught up. Turns out our engineers are now more experienced in email than Google's. How did that happen? They drove their engineers. A lot of their engineers left. And you saw this visibly in AI. Google invented the AI technologies. But those engineers are not there at Google. That's what you don't read in the news. All of the top engineers are all left. Why? I'll submit to you. I don't care if it even goes out. Sundar Pichai. You go and read engineers forum, they'll say Sundar Pichai is the most uninspiring leader. This is not about Indian. Indian engineers will tell you that. He's an MBA and he doesn't inspire us. Indian engineers will tell you. IIT gold medalists will tell you. Sundar doesn't inspire us. So ultimately what matters is the leadership. Even at Google level, they were not able to capitalize on their own inventions, which OpenAI capitalized, simply because they lost the engineering, the engineering workforce, the key engineers. Similar thing is true in Gmail. We are able to beat them now because they have lost the core engineers that built the Gmail. And so if you look at our experience, the team's current experience versus their current experience, we would have more experience. This is how TSMC was able to beat it. Over time, suddenly TSMC has the most experience in fabs. Intel officially as a company had more experience, but not the current people in the engineering workforce. So it is that's why one thing I obsess about is engineering chart. Zoho is optimized for retaining people long term. Our engineers, some of the engineers working with me on critical stuff, they've been here 20 years, 25 years, from the earliest days of the company. And 8 years, 9 years is very common, which is not common in our industry. Our attrition rate is one of the lowest in the world in software. Lowest in the world, not just India. And that is also directly responsible for our ability to move fast. That simply our people are much more experienced. After all these years now, we have gained experience. We are able to outcompete. And I'll give you some projects I'm on right now. We think we can beat Microsoft in compiler technology. And compiler is their original core business. Bill Gates started with compiler. And they have C#, all of the .NET, all of those. We have now technology, we believe we can solidly beat them. And the compiler technology is critical. It will become, I directly apply to data center, it could save me about $30 million a year. Better compiler technology could save hardware because you are running more efficiently in hardware. And in other words, compiler is a bridge between the programmer and the hardware. And you want programmer productivity and runtime efficiency. Those two have not been bridged well, and we think we can bridge better. That's directly $30 million into our bottom line. Then we get to invest in additional R&D. So this is the power of R&D. This technology I've been working on for the last 15 years now. I personally took over the project about 5 years ago, as I had some ideas and wanted to try them. Last 1 year, I filed 8 patents. So now you can see why our engineers will be passionate. When they see the CEO doing all this, they also say, where is my patent? Right? So that's what we promote this culture. And most of the projects I personally cannot follow up every day because I am busy with my own work. I tell them, hey, you go write your code, I write my code, sometimes we'll talk. Right? But that's how the company runs. We have about 200 discrete projects, everything from video. Like last week I had a call how we can compress or optimize the messages. We now run on lower and lower bandwidth, cheaper and cheaper phones, our video. That's again a major goal for us. We want to run with the very cheapest phone. We want to be able to enable large scale meetings even joining from cheap phones, not just great phones. So a lot of that, again, R&D. So I want to give you that whole R&D driven is the reason. Because we have, and I'm going to give you the Foxconn now. You might have seen the Foxconn article I tweeted about this about 10 days ago. In Varagadam, there is 35,000 people, all women, workforce, Foxconn operation that builds an iPhone, the latest iPhone. And this article talked about how the Indian worker is not as efficient as the Chinese, and we cannot work as many hours they do. And they got our government, state government, to change the law to do the 11-hour work week, 12-hour day, and was immediately repeated for us, right? And so we might be tempted to think, oh, we have to catch up with the Chinese, 11-hour work week, all that. But we have to realize the price China has paid for it. Massive. The average Chinese, we have 200 employees in China, so I know that they all love to work for Zoho because they don't want to work for a Chinese company. They say a Chinese company will exploit us. That's what they say. Our own employees in China. And so why that is so is because they don't have the balance at all, the concept of balance. Extreme. In fact, Jack Ma said 999. 9 hours a day, 9 to 9, and he said 9 days. 999 or something, 998 or something he said. So he's going to, they force people to work that hard. That was the premise. We don't do that. Swiss companies don't do that. They are highly innovative, they don't do that. German companies don't do that. Apple doesn't do it. Apple, the most profitable company in the world, is not doing this. Because you cannot invent if you don't have a balance. You just cannot do it. And this Foxconn, I'll give you some numbers, 35,000 workers. If they paid they incurred an additional $1,000 a year, that's $100 a month, maybe 8,000 rupees a month. They only spent $35 million a year, 35,000 times 1,000, right? And Apple makes about operating profit of about $350 to $400 million a day, per day. So it's about a couple of hours of operating profit to give all these ladies a nice bonus of $1,000 a year. I would do it. I would do it. If I ever meet Tim Cook, I'd ask him, is that you should do it. You should do it, our ladies here in Chennai. Otherwise, I don't see why you won't do it. It's $35 million. You are making $350 million. Everybody in the world knows these numbers. Per day. And I'm talking about per year. $35 million. Why I'm saying it is, we should rethink our priorities is. One reason we retain our people is because from the beginning we are taking care of them. The bonus of that, the result of that is we have the most productive company in India. I'll measure it by value added per employee. Our value added per employee is now about 1 crore per year of the total. 1 crore per year. So you can imagine when you add that much value, that's why we take care of, we feed everybody, we do flood relief, all of that because the value added per employee is so high. But I believe we can actually double it in the next 10 years. Next 5 years at least, maybe another 50%. The reason is all these inventions are compounding. We are gaining market share in Brazil, we are gaining market share in Mexico, we are gaining market share everywhere now. That naturally adds to the value added per employee. As we are competing with Microsoft, value added per employee is closer to about 7-8 crores. So we are only 1/7, 1/8. We are not there in that league. But why I'm saying it is that is the gift that keeps on giving. We can take care of our people and still be profitable. So that's really that. From the beginning, that's been why we got into product is because that's where a lot of value addition is possible. In the same way, I want to say we should figure out how to compete with Apple. I mean, as a nation, as companies, we should figure out how to compete with our Swiss suppliers. I mean, rice polishing machines. Switzerland is shipping to India. Rice polishing, and they don't even grow rice. They don't even eat much rice. They're shipping a rice polishing technology. So these are the underpinnings of their $80,000, $100,000 per capita GDP of Switzerland. The ability to do the rice polishing machine, the fine blanking machine, the stamping. Some of you might have that machine in your. There's a Swiss company, Fine Tool. It's in one small town in Switzerland, about 20,000. I joked to our people in Telkasi that the same population is Kanaya. My nearest town. If I go out to buy a pair of this thing or shoes, or I have to go for a haircut, I go to Kanaya. 20,000. This company is based in Switzerland, ships $500 million worth of machines to essentially all of the automotive companies in the world. About a third of the cars have the parts made by that machine. There's only one or two companies that can do that fine tolerance, the fine blanking process. I studied these kinds of companies. There's a company in Japan called Union Tools. They make PCB drill bits finer than human hair. So they can drill holes finer than human hair. They're about $500 million. What their secret sauce is, they make the machines that make those drill bits. And they won't share the technology. That's something very, very important I want to relate to you. Most of the leverage in this is not just the finished product. Take Nikon. Probably half the cameras are Nikon. There is an article, you should find it on Google. How Nikon makes its lenses. It's a long form article. It takes about 20 minutes to read it. It's well worth reading. This is a few years old. Nikon actually has their own custom machines to grind the lenses. They're one of the world's best in this. And we actually have, the competition doesn't have access to that technology. And that custom machinery is critical. That you can see what informed my compiler investment. This is the same. The compiler is not what our customer will see, but the compiler will make our software better, faster, cheaper for the customer. And my programmer more productive. But I actually believe that we can make our programmer 5 times more productive. 5 times. If you can do that, imagine the leverage. That's where the tooling, the engineering investment is. So if I visit a factory, I don't just look at the finished product, what they ship. I look at who makes the machine. He knows that. Every factory. I use the German company, use the Swiss company, use the Japanese company, use the Taiwanese. I go download all that material. I study them. It is that company I want to compete with, I say. Because the finished product, yes, we can make by buying the machinery, but we have to compete with those to advance to that level. If you want to become a Taiwan, we have to compete with the Japanese and the Swiss companies and all this. And in Coimbatore, you remember in Tirupur, I actually said this. Our labor costs have gone up so much in Coimbatore. We are losing jobs to Bangladesh. But we cannot think of Bangladesh as competition. We have to think of Taiwan and Switzerland as competition next. and that's where the R&D power comes in. So to me, the race to the bottom is trying to compete with Bangladesh. The race to the top is trying to compete with Switzerland. So we have to race to the top, and that is our race. So that's all I have to say, and now I'll be happy to take some questions. Thank you.